So I came to the US in 2016. I know I've been saying this a lot, and I got a full scholarship to do my master's degree in economics. And so, the strange thing about my application was that I got admission and funding in just 20 days. Now, I think one thing that was really important, for me was the fact that I submitted a good application. So, I got a good GPA, but that was not all about that. I also had to submit a good personal statement, and I had to submit a good resume and all of that. And these things make a big difference. I see a lot of videos, people are talking about, so and so is giving 50,000 scholarship and stuff like that. But the reality is that you have to make sure you submit a good application. It's very important. And recently, it looks like the visa officers are not interested in people who are going for the interview without any kind of scholarship. And it's actually understandable because, if you don't have a scholarship, it probably means the school doesn't really consider you a good candidate. That's, one of the things, because a scholarship is not just a financial support, but also it shows that the student is a good student. And so if you have some amount of scholarship and you go for the visa interview, it's always very easy to be approved. And I like to tell students that if you don't have a scholarship, then it's better for you to wait for 1 year and submit a good application and try to get some amount of scholarship, because that helps a lot. So let's see. Abraham. So yeah, it's only subscribers who can send messages here, because of the fact that I'm actually doing it for my subscribers. So um Ambrose has a question. Some schools that take WES evaluation. I'm going in for geography related master's program. So I like to tell students to, kind of apply to schools that don't require an evaluation, because there are so many schools like that. If you want to do geography, you can look at my former school, which is Ohio University. You don't need to take the GRE. You don't need, any evaluation to go to Ohio University. What I will tell you is to make sure you submit a good application. Your personal statement has to reflect, your background and how the program kind of aligns with your future goals. And if you write a good personal statement, the school is likely going to consider your application and give you, some amount of funding. So that is something that I will tell you. But if you WS evaluation, I think South Dakota, they require an evaluation. So, and the application fee for South Dakota is $35, I think, and they give good funding, so you can also try that. Solomon updates my I-20. Can I ask my school to update my I-20 to reflect my scholarship after the payment of service fee? Yeah, so most of the time, some schools don't actually update the I-20 as soon as they issue it. They don't want to update it, which is fine. But what I can tell you is that you can make a request to the school to update your I-20. But if they refuse, what you can do is to go for the interview with the new scholarship letter or something that you got from the school. And during the interview, you can tell the visa officer you have the scholarship and you have the document to prove it, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be on the I-20, for it to be credible. Once you have a letter from the school showing that you've been offered some amount of scholarship, that actually helps. So you can, go with that option. Obo says, my sister just finished her WAEC and she's going for nursing. Should I advise her to go for SAT? Well, depending on her WASI results, she can actually get a good scholarship. I know somebody who had 5 A's, is it five? Who had 7 A's and then 1B, and he got about 80% scholarship. So yeah, it depends on the WASI result. If the WASI result is good, you don't have to take the SAT, but always taking the SAT makes a big difference. It makes it possible for you to apply to so many schools, and it gives you a better opportunity to get so many schools with good funding. So if you can take the SAT, it's helpful. That's what I would say. Adeshina says, I just received my I-20 and the school gave me 9K funding, but is the graduate school, so the graduate school gave you 9K funding? Yeah, I'm not sure what your question is here. If you can ask again. And Ambrose says, yeah, he has done his WS evaluation. Yeah, if you have done it, there are so many schools you can apply to, and once you've done the evaluation, it doesn't mean you have to apply to a school that requires an evaluation. You can apply to schools that don't require the evaluation as well. It's still fine. Um, Additional says, hope it won't hurt my chances because I don't have my letter. If the school has given you 9K funding, I think it should be on the I-20. If not, then the school probably communicated that to you by email. So you probably have an email, to show for that. And scripture says, I'm 34 years with 2 kids and I'm using my maternal uncle who is in the US as finances. I want to know if it is appropriate for me to use it or should I add a bank statement too. So scripture, if I'll be really honest with you, going with an uncle as a sponsor, it's not really a good idea these days because it's like a lot of people are using fraudulent bank statements, so they kind of pay for bank statements and all of that, and the visa officers are aware of some of these things. And so if you are going for the interview with an uncle, it's not easy unless you have a good scholarship. Then supplementing that with an uncle kind of helps. But if you don't have any funding at all, it's very difficult if you are going with an uncle. If you are going with your parents, who share the same surname with you, then that helps. Or if you are going with a brother who shares the same surname with you, or if you are going with a company bank statement, or sorry, a company sponsorship letter or something, that also helps. So that's what I would tell you. And Sarah, thank you for sharing the link. Ezekiel, I'm changing from civil engineering to nursing in the US. How will I explain this if asked? Yeah, that's a difficult question. That is something that you have to think about. So, I mean, yourself, like ask yourself, why do you want to switch? Because if you actually have a good reason to change programs, the visa officer is likely going to believe you when you say, like, when you explain why you are making the switch. So, it's possible maybe your parents pushed you to do the civil engineering. Maybe it's not something that you really want, or maybe along the way you develop passion in nursing or something. So that is something you have to kind of try to figure out. Ambrose says he knows me from Cape Coast. Oh, nice. Sarah says she's going for her visa interview on Tuesday. Any advice? Sarah, my advice will be to make sure you highlight your background. So depending on the question you are asked, always try to highlight your background. And so like if you have a bachelor's degree in a particular field, it's always very important to bring that up because it shows that you have a good reason to do your master's. Or if you are currently working in like as a finance personnel or something in a company, then that also relate to like economics. That is me using economics as an example. So you always have to try to highlight that. That is the first thing. Then in the middle, you always have to emphasize more like technical skills that you are going to learn from the program, so what the program is going to teach you. And also always try to emphasize your ties, which is your plans after your studies. So if you are in Ghana, one thing that is very important is your ties, because Ghanaians don't, according to the US Embassy Ghana, Ghanaians tend to overstay a lot. And so if you emphasize your ties, and it has to be clear enough, don't say something which is an exaggeration. Don't say, like you're coming back to hold a position as, let's say you're coming to do your bachelor's degree. You cannot just finish your bachelor's degree and then go back to Ghana to hold a position as a CEO or something. No, you have to be reasonable. And also, whenever you are talking about your ties, try to be very passionate about it. It's like you express yourself with so much desire, and smiling is always very good. It kind of creates a good first impression. And be confident, and whatever answer that you are giving, make sure you look into the eyes of the visa officer, because for the white people, looking into the eyes of somebody, talking to the person, like kind of mirroring the person shows that you are telling the truth. And so that's something that um, you have to pay attention to. And make sure you prepare yourself well. Know why you want to study the program. Know why you want to do your program in the US, and have clear plans to return to your home country after your studies. That is how to get a visa approved. Um, then what else? I'll try to answer all your questions. So let me see. Uh, Kuam says, Shai, what do you think about funding? I have a deficit, and people are saying getting visa approved are mostly based on funding. Yeah, so funding is extremely important because funding is not just financial support. It also shows the fact that the student is a good student, because scholarship is based on academic achievements or talent of the student. And so if you get funding from the school, it's tells the visa officer that you're actually a good student. And also getting funding or having some amount of funding already makes you more likely to be approved compared to somebody who doesn't have any funding at all. And the other thing is US education is very expensive, and so getting funding means you have some kind of financial support to take care of your studies. And so that is why funding is important. If you don't have any funding at all and you are not being sponsored by your parents, my advice would be, don't go for the interview. Try to reapply. If you are being sponsored by your parents, then fine, you can go and you can be approved. So that's what I would say. Next question by a Sylphie on the DX1C. When filling the parent section, can I write my stepmother's name there instead of my biological mom who is deceased? Yeah, so the parents here, the information about the parents, I think it's mainly because of the fact that in future, if you, let's say, you come to the US and you want to invite your parents over for your graduation or something, the name you provide has to match the name of the person you are inviting. So if your stepmom is now your mom, you can actually put it there as your mom. I think so. So yeah. Osman says, please, I have an interview next month and I've completed senior high school in 2019. So when the viewer asked me about what I was doing during the year, what is the best answer to that? So this one, it depends on what you've been doing. If you've been working, then you can, or if you've been doing some internship work or something, then that can also work. The thing is that most of the time, if you leave a big gap, it becomes difficult to justify, because the visa officer is feeling, you probably don't have a job in your home country, and so you are looking for, a way to get out of our country, and the US is kind of providing you with that opportunity, and so that's why you want to leave. So this is something that you have to be very careful of, because some of these things the visa officer might not even ask you. They look on the DX1C and they can tell that you have a long gap, and that kind of go against you. So try to do some volunteer work, some internship work or something that can help you a lot. And also, if you have funding, it kind of helps a lot. The visa officers can actually overlook some of these things if you have a good funding from the school. The next question by Kweku. What if you have applied to the Canadian embassy but refused the biometric sticker? Sticker is still in my passport, and I have an impending F1 visa interview. Won't it affect my chances? Well, whatever that has happened with the Canadian embassy, it's not likely to affect you when you go for your interview, for a US visa. So that's what I think. Unless, let's say, you go to Canada, you overstay. That one, they keep the record, and that record can actually affect you, because Canada and US are part of the Five Eyes country. So yeah, they check that kind of information. But the fact that you were refused a Canadian visa doesn't mean you should be refused a US visa. No. Obo says, tell them to like and share since it is your first live video. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, so guys, make sure you share this video with your friends, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is very important. I have a lot of videos that I've prepared, and so the more you subscribe, the more I want to share these videos with you. Making a video is really not an easy thing, honestly. So yeah, next question. Portia, I didn't get any scholarship from school. The reason is that international students receive it after the first semester. Is there something I can do about this, please? Yeah, Portia. So if you don't have any scholarship from the school, then it should be your parents who are sponsoring you. Because if it's not your parents, the honest truth is that it will be very difficult to be approved if you don't have any funding at all. So another thing you can do is to maybe, submit a good application next year, to give yourself a better chance for funding. So that's what I can say. Or applying to the right school is always very important. Apply, if so, sometimes you have to take your time and make sure you're applying to the right school. The next question is from Call on God. Is 21K deficit good for undergraduates enough after two denials? Now, deficit is not the main thing that you look out for if you want to go for an interview. You have to look at the amount of scholarship and the amount of deficit. So if you tell me 21K deficit, it is very difficult for me to tell you whether it's good or not, unless I know the scholarship and the cost of attendance, all of this. All right, Rebecca. Hi, does the reason or answer for denial need to be in line with the question what has changed in your application, or there are two different questions? Well, they are just about the same thing. So it's like, what has changed? So first of all, if you don't know why you were denied, if you want, you can put you were denied under section 214B. Fine, you can do that, right? But then you have to quickly give a reason for what has changed, because if nothing has changed, you'll be denied again. You have to know what has changed. And most of the time, a good thing that you can give, like something which is significant in terms of what has changed, is if you have new funding. So maybe before you went for the interview, you didn't have any funding, now you have some funding. Or before you went for the interview, you had maybe 10K funding, now you have like 20K funding. That actually helps a lot. So yeah. The next thing is, Shai, please, I have a 10K scholarship from the school and a deficit of 38K. My employer is sponsoring me with 60K, which was calculated on a 12-month scale. Is it too much? Well, it depends on the company that is sponsoring you, and you have to be reasonable. Why is a company sponsoring you? Like, why will a company decide to spend 60K on you, like, annually? It depends on the role that you play in the company, how many years you have worked in the company, and what you are coming to learn, and how that to relate to the company and all of that. So presenting the company just like that is not enough. I have a video that I made about somebody, one of the people that I coach, whose visa was approved using a company. And when you look at the transcript very well, you cannot deny him, because he was very clear. He trained people in the company and all of that. And when he mentioned a lot of technical things that he does for the company, and then he highlighted the fact that there is a gap in terms of the skills that he has and what the company needs to solve certain problems in the company. So when you give an explanation like that, the visa officer is going to believe you. And also, it's a big company, so then there wouldn't be any problem with presenting a company as your sponsor. So in your case, these are some of the things that you should look out for. All right. The next question, from Lisbon. Hello, Shai. Is going with 33K deficit good for undergraduates? Well, like I've been saying, the deficit is not the point. I'm actually going to make a video, about something. I've heard people talking about the fact that you have to go with the school with a lower deficit. That's not true. It doesn't work like that. You don't go with the school with a lower deficit. No, you have to go with the school based on, so the school you choose has to be based on the amount of scholarship and the amount of deficit. You have to look at the two together. It's not just the deficit. It's a lie. So you guys have to be very careful with all that information. So let me try. And so the next question is, my brother, who I share the same surname with, is sponsoring me. My deficit is 12K. My course is MS Healthcare Administration. I work at FDA, bachelor's degree in biochem from UCC, and EMBA project management. Yeah, I think you have a very good chance, Nanaya. Like, if you prepare yourself very well, if you have a good reason for studying the program, you have a low deficit, and this 12K means that you have a good scholarship, because there is no school that will tell you a cost of attendance is 12K. So it means you have a good scholarship. You have your brother who shares the same surname with you sponsoring you. So I mean, obviously, you have a credible sponsor. So I think you should be approved. It shouldn't be that difficult. Solomon says, I appreciate your opinion on my first question. Yeah, you're welcome. Idris says, Please, I have two different fundings. I have a joint account with my mom. She funds for the 40% of her profits, and it's enough. And is it enough? Or I should just use her whole personal bank statement? Which one is better? I have two different fundings. The first one is I have a joint account with my mom. She funds 40% of her profits, and is it enough? I'm actually struggling to understand your question, but what I can say is that if your mom is sponsoring you, then you should be fine. Or if you have some personal savings, and then your mom is also sponsoring with the rest, then I think that is good enough. So you should be fine. Santi says my cost of attendance is $30,000 and no funding. My brother is sponsoring me, but we do not have the same surname. I have made personal savings as well. Should I attach my personal bank account to that of my brother? So now, depending on the personal savings that you have, you can start answering your question with your personal savings and then your brother. I don't really encourage students to go with only personal savings. There should be somebody else. And the only issue with this is the fact that you don't share the same surname with the brother. And so if the visa officer looks on the bank statement, they don't always look on the bank statement. That's the thing. Which, so if you are fortunate and they don't look on the bank statement, then you are good. But if they look on the bank statement, then there will be a problem, because they will realize that you guys don't share the same surname, which means that you are probably using a bank statement which is forged or something. So that is something you should look out for. Okay. The next question, my by Nanayao. So Nanayao is continuing. I am married with kids, please. My interview is on Monday afternoon. Any advice? Um, so the same advice I give, just prepare yourself very well, know why you want to study the program, be clear on your finances, who is sponsoring you and all of that, and know why you want to study in the US, how you came about the program and your plans after your studies. Since you're a Ghanaian, your ties is extremely important because Ghanaians are overstaying. So make sure you have clear plans. And I always say that be reasonable with your clear plans after your stay. Don't just say whatever you want. I have seen answers where people are just exaggerating things. No, be realistic. Okay, you are not just returning from the US and suddenly you are the CEO. No, it doesn't work like that. You start from somewhere, but you can have a long-term plan and say in the long term you want to establish your own company. That is reasonable because it's a long-term plan. So that is something you can think of. And also be very confident. Keep an eye contact with the visa officer. Like I said, if you mirror somebody, then the person is going to believe whatever you say. So the visa officer is keeping eye contact with you. So you also have to keep an eye contact with the visa officer to show that you're actually telling the truth. So that's how it works. And then make sure you show so much passion about your ties. Whenever you are expressing your ties, be excited about it, because that will tell the visa officer that you actually want to come back home. You have a lot to come back to. And yeah, the fact that you are married, if it comes up and you say it actually helps you, because you are not going to leave your family behind just because you want to come to the US. So that can actually help you. So always, if you get opportunity, talk about the fact that you are married. Yanumi says, I hold BA Community Development and MSc Development, but currently a basic classroom teacher in Ghana. However, I want to apply for a PhD program in my field of study. Is there a chance for my visa? Of course. I mean, you are working, you are doing something um which is in the education field, and you have a bachelor's degree in community development. So now you have to try to link everything together. Okay, it is very important to try to link it. That is something that you have to take your time and see how you see the connection, because if there is no connection, then it's like, why are you coming to do PhD? So you should find a way to connect all of this. I know this is not the kind of answer that you want, but some of these things, it takes a bit of time to try to figure out how you can connect all of that. The next question is from Ambrose. Please, can you tell us more about the tricks to get funding, especially GA? Yeah, so what I want to tell you is that make sure you apply to the right school. There are so many videos that will tell you that a school is giving 50K or 100,000K and stuff like that. Now, when you watch a video like that, make sure the video is telling you about the cost of attendance, because if the cost of attendance is 100K and the school is giving, let's say, 50K, then you have a 50K deficit. So that's something you should think about. Okay, so not just once you see 50K, then you want to apply to such a school. No, take your time, do your research on the school. Also, make sure before you apply to a school, make sure you go through the website and make sure the school has stated that they offer funding, and they, all kinds of funding like GA and all of that. Make sure it has been clearly stated on the website before you apply. Otherwise, you waste your time. Also, if you're coming to do your master's or PhD, application fee is extremely important. Apply to schools that require application fee. I've explained this a lot. If you're coming to do bachelor's degree, then most programs don't require the application fee, so that's fine. But for master's, PhD, the schools that don't require application fee, they are not likely to give you good funding. Except there are some schools that have something called the free up week. Free up week is just like a week or 2 weeks, and it's usually early in the admission period so that they can review those applications. So they waive it for 1 week or 2 weeks. And so when you apply within that period, then you're likely to get funding because those schools are big schools. So that's the thing. Also, a good way to get a good funding is to take the GRE, because many people don't want to take the GRE. So if you take the GRE or the SAT, you set yourself apart from all those people. Also, your personal statement, it has to be very good. Okay, I am actually going to post a video on personal statement very soon, probably by the end of next week. And sometimes it's very difficult for students to write the personal statement, so I'm going to give you something which should make everybody be able to write their personal statement. It's very, 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 very easy, because I've broken down the paragraphs in such a way that you can actually take each paragraph and write something about it, and then once you finish, you put everything together, and then you can have something that makes a lot of sense. And also, you can look at the video that I made about resume, because people submit resumes which are long. If the school says resume, it has to be 1 page. If the school says CV, then it can be several pages. So resumes should be just 1 page, and it should be clean enough. It should highlight the most important things about you. That's it, because the admission committee, they don't really have a lot of time to go through everything. So make sure you don't waste their time. Okay. All right. The next question is from Abraham. Hi Shai, please, I got admission to Washington University in St. Louis and received a scholarship of 60,000, a loan of 13,820 from the school, and personal funds of $8,000. Cost of attendance is 81,000. Is it okay with this? Yeah, I think you should get your visa approved, because you have a huge scholarship, $60,000 scholarship. That's like 80% or so. So I don't see why you should not get your visa approved if you prepare yourself very well. When I see things like this, I know that it's almost not likely that you'll be denied. I know sometimes people with full funding are denied, and if you have full funding, or if you have even more than 50% and you are denied, it means you did a lot of things wrong. Because if you have like over 50% funding, it means you are already in the US. Like your one foot is already in the US. That's how I see it. So you have to just do a little bit more, and have good motivations to study the program and have clear plans to return. It shouldn't be that difficult. Most of the time, if you don't have any funding, that is where the challenge is. Because if you don't have any funding at all, man, it's so difficult. If you don't have any funding, it's so difficult for the visa officer to believe you. Because if you don't have funding, it's like the school doesn't even trust you, doesn't even think you are a good student. So why should the visa officer give you the visa? That sometimes that's how they think about some of these things. The next question is by Gloria. In case your father is a doctor and a businessman, and you are using his bank statement, he doesn't use the doctor in his business account. Is it an issue? Well, if it's your father and then you have the bank statement with his name and all of that, just go straight to the point and give the details about him. You're likely to be approved, honestly, because it's your father. So yeah. Um, the next question is, I hope I've not skipped anything. The next question is, I don't even know where I am. Where is it? Where is the next one? Yeah, I think I've. If I skip your question, please send it again, because. Uh, okay. The next person is scripture. It says, I have an award of $8,436, and my uncle will cover the deficit of 26K. And his bank statement is from the Bank of America. So I want to know if I should add my own bank statement since I'm married with two kids. Yeah, so when you are presenting your uncle, I always say without a good scholarship, it won't be easy, but I mean you can still be approved. What I mean by without a good scholarship is that the scholarship is way less than 50%. And so in that instance, it's not always easy. And if you're presenting an uncle, sometimes it's like, okay, you're married, so why is your uncle sponsoring you? And this is where the visa officers think, okay, this person probably, paid money for the bank statement. So the bank statement is probably not credible. So that is where the challenge is. But you can still be approved. I feel like if you go and then you express yourself very well and you are very natural, you actually know why you want to come to the US and all of that. The visa officers can actually overlook some of these things because at the end of the day, the US wants the best people into their country. So if you can prove to them that you are one of the best people, then you're likely to be given the visa. The next question is from Idris. Please, there is a section in the DX1C form that asks about employment. I'm going for NYSC and it won't end until next year, June. But my semester and visa interview is this year. Won't that affect my chances? Well, I don't really know how to answer this question for you because normally you have to come to the US after your national service, right? I completed my bachelor's degree in 2015, and then I did my national service, from 2015 to 2016, and I came to the US in 2016. That is the natural way of doing things. But I don't know, what I should tell you about this one because it's not straightforward like that. The next thing is please, I'm being sponsored by my mom and uncle. Well, once there is your mom, it can actually help. It also depends on the deficit. If the deficit is huge and then you are being sponsored by your mom and uncle, it can also be a bit complicated if you don't have a good scholarship. Okay. So that is a reality. Boahin says, I have made a mistake in filling my DX1C form about my place of birth. Is it going to affect me or there is a way for it, please? Well, this is not really a big mistake. I don't really think this mistake will affect you. But if you are not comfortable with this, then one thing you can do is to fill out a new DX1C form and then submit it. Make sure you have enough days, okay? And once you submit, or even before you submit it, once you create a new DX1C form application, you can copy the confirmation number and update it in the CGI portal. Once you do that, it will reflect, so it's like the old DX1C form will no longer be valid and the new DX1C form will now be valid, and then you can go ahead and submit it and make the changes that you want to make. Okay. So that is not a big deal. Just make sure you have enough time to update it. All right. The next question is by Aina. Can someone get funding for spring admission? Yes, people get funding for spring admission, but if you want a better chance to get admission and full funding, you have to consider only fall because fall is the biggest admission period, where people get funding and all of that. Fall is the main admission, admission period. And so if you want a better chance to get full funding, then you have to apply to the spring admission. So that's what I will say. Ambrose says, please, can you give me more of the WUS school apart from South Dakota? Well, the thing about me is that I don't like applying to schools that require me to spend a lot of money. So most of the time, instead of me to spend like $200 on an evaluation, I'll use that money to apply to the right schools and make sure my application materials are very competitive. Okay. So I don't remember all these schools offered unless I take my time and go through, certain things, but I cannot remember all of them. South Dakota is the one that, comes to mind easily. And so yeah, but yeah, I don't really like doing evaluation stuff. I like to, rather than doing taking your transcript through an evaluation, I'd rather take the GRE, which will give me a better chance for funding. So that's what I would say. And also the fact that you have an evaluation doesn't mean you have to apply to only those schools. You can also apply to schools that don't require an evaluation. The most important thing actually is to make sure you're applying to the right school and you're submitting a good application. All right. The next thing is from Ernest. Hi Shai, my uncle will be the one sponsoring me, but in case the VO asks why is your company not sponsoring, or supporting you. What's your say on this? Well, there almost everyone who goes for the interview is already working for a company, yet they don't present their company as their sponsor. So that is not a problem. The company doesn't have funds, or doesn't really think they want to sponsor you, which is fine. The only thing is that if it's only your uncle who is sponsoring you, then it's not going to be easy unless you have a good scholarship, because uncle stuff, they don't really help unless you have a good scholarship to support that. Okay, so the next question is from Rebecca. Under what circumstance can someone resubmit their DX1C form? I saw your video on TikTok on how you can go about that. Are there specific circumstances one can resubmit? So you resubmit your DX1C form if so it's resubmission. I don't think that is a correct term. So it's like you can you can you can create a new DX1C form, okay, and then update it on the visa appointment page. You do that if you have made a mistake on the current DX1C form. So it's like maybe there was something important and you made a mistake, and you've already submitted it, and you use that DX1C form to create an appointment. So what you can do is to create a new DX1C form. You take the confirmation number and update it in the appointment page. But this one, you have to make sure you have a few days to do this, just so that it will reflect. Okay. And once you do that, make sure, well, I mean, it's still the same I-20. If you are changing I-20s, then also you have to make sure you are transferring the I-20, your you are transferring the I-20 fee payment. Okay, and this one you can send an email to those in charge of this, or on their websites, there might be an option for you to do the transfer as well. All right. The next question is from Constance. Please, is it advisable to send my bank statement, my personal bank statement, while on my I-20? It's only my sponsor name on it for sponsoring. So, like I said earlier, some schools don't change the I-20s once they submit it to you. So it means that once they give you the I-20, it's just the way it is. If you can change it, fine. If you cannot change it, when you go for the interview, stick to the current sponsor, because that is what actually matters. You can always find a story. So let's say initially it's family funds, now it's company that is sponsoring you. So you can say your family was going to sponsor you, but after the I-20 was issued to you, your company also decided to sponsor you, and so right now it's your company that is sponsoring you. You can go with that story. Okay, so but always, yeah, if you can update it, fine. If you cannot, it's not something you should stress yourself over. So yeah, I tell students that visa officers don't issue visas to documents; they issue it to the individual. So it is how you present your story during the interview that actually matters, not the documents that you are using to support your application. The next question from Belinda. Hi Shai, please, I have a previous denial and preparing for my next interview. I was very nervous during my last interview. Any advice for me? So Belinda, if you were previously denied and you are going again, my advice would be to make sure something has changed. If you were not working before, now you are working. Or if you didn't have any funding, now you have some funding. You have to have something which has changed, and it has to be significant. That is all. That is the first step. If not, you don't have to reapply. The second thing is to try to improve your answers and also practice them with somebody, because if you don't practice and then you go for the interview, it's like first time trying to give answers that you've probably memorized. So you might forget some of them, but if you keep practicing them with somebody, and an advice that I give to the student that I coach is to always try to record the questions and the answers, and say, like, they should say it and then record it. And then when they finish, they should play it back and compare what they are saying with the answers that they've already prepared. That way they can see what they are missing, and how they can improve that. And that is actually how the brain works. The brain doesn't learn at once. It's a gradual process. So you learn and then you forget a little bit of it. You go back and then the brain will be forming kind of neural pathways for you to be able to kind of store everything in your mind. So that's how the brain works. And so practicing always makes a big difference. Okay. The next thing is from Fuluke. She's, I don't know. The person says, and my mom and my uncle are business people. My dad is dead. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this one, uncle is not always easy, but once there is your mom, it can help. also, like I said, if there is some scholarship, it helps a lot. If not, then you still have to, go and then do your best and see how it goes. And if it goes well, then great. If not, it's not the end of the world. You can apply for the next year. You can try to get some scholarship and apply again, that kind of thing. So some people, they have to go like three times to be approved and all of that. Sometimes that's how life is. We all cannot get it at the same time. So if one has to be patient, one has to be patient. That's all. That's how life works. The next question is Boahin. I've already submitted the DX1C form after I printed out the form, and I noticed that I have made a mistake about my place of birth. I think I've answered this question already. Yeah, so if you've made a mistake, you can create a new DX1C form and then use that confirmation number to update it on the on the appointment page. Okay, make sure you have some few days to do that, just in case. Solomon says, please, I'm having my national service as a logistic assistant with an international company. My uncle is sponsoring me to gain an advanced skill needed for his business expansion. Now, if I were a visa officer, the question I will ask you is that if your uncle wants you to gain advanced skills to help his business, why are you not currently working for your uncle? That's the question I will ask you, and the visa officer will be thinking the same way and might deny you because of this, because this is not really a good explanation to give. Alice says, I have a scholarship of 3,000 and my balance fees is 45,000. My dad is sponsoring me. He has $82,000 on his bank statement, and I also have a savings of 4,000 in my own account, not working but have business. Yeah, your finances, once your dad is sponsoring you, then you'll be fine. It depends on how you answer the questions and all of that. So once it's your dad, that's fine. Ideally, you should share the same surname with him so that it actually shows that he's your dad. Okay. What I would say is that in explaining your finances, the scholarship is just 3,000. It's not big enough, so don't even mention the scholarship. The visa officer will actually see the scholarship on the I-20, so don't really mention it. If your scholarship is maybe 40% or maybe 50% and upwards, then you can mention the scholarship. And your personal funds, which is 4,000, is too small. You don't even have to worry about that one. Just stick to your dad's sponsorship. Solomon says, my bachelor's degree is procurement and supply chain management, and I'm going for MS supply chain analytics. So yeah, I think I've already answered that question. Um, the next question is, I didn't think there was going to be a lot of questions. So Portia says, my husband is my sponsor. I didn't get any scholarship from the school as well. What are my chances? The deficit is 40K. Yeah, if your husband is your sponsor, I think you still have a good chance. It's just like your parents sponsoring you, because yeah, everybody will understand why your husband wants to sponsor you, and yeah, it makes sense. And even this one shows that you have strong ties to your home country, because you are married and you're not likely to stay in the US for too long when you have a husband and all of that. The only thing is that your husband has to be making enough money and has to have enough money to be able to sponsor you. If he has enough money, then you should be fine, I believe. All right. Travel and food vlog says, tell me about cultural diversity in US. I'm not too sure what you mean by cultural diversity, but what I can say is that the US is probably the most culturally diverse country in the world, because there are all kinds of people in the US, and so yeah, probably, yeah, and even on US campuses, they tend to focus a lot on diversity, and that is why international students tend to get some kind of scholarships, because they want to promote diversity on campus. This is different from UK. In UK, they don't really focus so much on cultural diversity. They don't really care. I think they tend to focus on the best students, that kind of thing. Mr. Bruce, I have a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering from Ghana. I got admitted to a flight school in Florida starting in August. I got early dates in Namibia and went for it. Do I stand a chance of approval? Well, it depends on your financial uh, stuff. It depends on how much scholarship you have and how you explain yourself in terms of your motivation to study the program and your plans after your studies. So I cannot really just give an answer like that. It all depends on you, how you prepare yourself. The other thing is that I don't really encourage students to go to different countries for their visa because I really don't see the point. It's stressful and all of that, and it kind of shows that you are too desperate. So I would rather prefer you stay in your country. If you are not getting an appointment dates, you can use the emergency appointment to get a date. That is possible. The next question is by Obo. Please, I need a sample of a cover letter for a GA position. Well, I don't actually have a sample, but I think if you Google, you can get a sample online. And most GA positions don't require you to write a letter. I mean, it's really rare for you to be asked to write a letter for a GA position. Okay, maybe that's why I've not even thought about a video like that, because it's really not a common thing. Some GA positions, they will ask you to fulfill a form. That form doesn't require you to write a letter or anything. It's just a form that the school will give you for you to just fill out a few details, and that's it. Kelvin says, I'm a non-traditional student with a steady gap of 15 years. I have a personal savings of 80,000 and an Empower loan of 45,000 with other personal assets. The cost of attendance is 39,000. Well, if you want my honest opinion, I don't like students going for interviews with loans. It just something I don't like. I just feel like starting out life with loans doesn't really help, because it's it's difficult to pay off your loans. People think, once you come and you do your program in the US, you get a better chance to make money and pay off the loans, but it's not easy. It's not easy. So for me, if I were in your shoes, I would not even go for the interview. I mean, it depends. If you spend money on service fee and visa fee, then you have to go for the interview. But if not, me, I will not go, because I would rather take my time, wait for 1 year, and submit a good application and get a good scholarship. So that's what I would do. Um, the next person is Ernest. I'm going for a bachelor's degree with a scholarship of 5,000 and a deficit of, is it 3,100, and a cost of attendance of 3,600. I'm confused. How is that possible? What's your say on this? I don't think there's any school. I don't think there's any school like that will tell you the cost of attendance is 3,600. No, please check it well. Then Kweku says, hello. From which amount do you think is a huge deficit? I'm not too sure if I understand your question, honestly. Um, Then Fred says, my program for the first year is a self-funded program. I couldn't get a buoyant account to cover my cost of attendance, which is 34,822. I opted for Empower loan of 40,000, and I'm using my uncle's statement to cover interest. Yeah, I mean, if you are using Empower loan and you want to know how it works, I have a video based on Modine's visa interview transcript, and actually Modine breaks down, how to pay off the loan and all of that. So you can use that to help yourself. I just don't like people going with loans. So Fawaz says, I have a joint account with my mom, and it has enough money for my PhD. Should I use the joint account or use my mom's bank account statement instead? Which one is better? For us, if you're coming to the US to do a PhD and your mom is sponsoring you, I still think it's not going to be easy if you are outside the country and you are trying to get a visa, because PhD is 4 years, and unless your mom is very rich, like very very rich, and she can afford it, because 4 years is such a long time. And even for PhD, sometimes you might even end up spending 6 years in the program, because in my current program, there are people who are in their sixth year and they are still not done with their research and all of that. So yeah, I mean, it depends. But for PhD, the truth is that PhD admissions are very difficult, like really difficult to get admission, to get funding, because most of the time admission comes with funding, and so before the school give you admission, they know they are giving you funding as well. So admission itself is even very competitive. So yeah, I mean, you can try it and see. It all depends on you, the individual, how you explain yourself and all of that. Apia Kubi says, Northeastern University Telecommunication Networks with cost of attendance of $57,067 with Empower loan of 59,600. What are your chances? So my question is, this is the cost of attendance is for the first year. If your program is 2 years, are you going to take another loan So you are going to complete the program with over $100,000 in loan. I mean, that's not a good way to start life. Please don't do it. Don't do it at all. If you don't have any scholarship, try again. Let me recommend, if you want to do telecommunication network, I actually have a master's degree in telecommunication networks, and I had it in Ohio University. And I did not come from a telecommunication background, and so they don't give full funding for people who are not from a telecommunication background. So I got a partial funding because I was from a different background at all, like completely. So yeah, if you are from a telecommunication background, you can get full funding in that program, because getting a full funding in that program is not really that hard. But the other thing is that if you're outside the US, then you have to take the GRE to get a chance. But that program is actually a good program. Um, Sarah says, I have 25,000 scholarship from the school with a deficit of 44K, going to be funded by an NGO in mechanical engineering. Possible questions, but with sponsorship letter from the organization. Yeah, I think, Sarah, it should be fine. 25K is huge. It's more than 50%. And so if you prepare yourself well, why is the NGO, why is the NGO sponsoring you? Why do you want to study the program? What are your plans after your studies? Stuff like that. It should be fine. I have so many videos that you can check. Okay. All right. Uh, Alice says, I have an organization and business, but I just put my business in the DX160 form, and also the sponsor is my family funds. Should I also include my savings to stand a chance because my scholarship is 5,000? Well, all of this depends on how you present your story, and your savings. Your scholarship is 5,000. That it's not that much, but still, it can actually help you though. But yeah, it depends on how much you have, you know how much you have saved and all of that. If you have a lot of savings, that can actually help you, and then you can add the business, the organization and all of that together. So it depends on how you put all of this together. It depends on how much they are and all of that. Nanaya says, so as I stated earlier, my brother is sponsoring me, so only his bank statement and my scholarship is on the I-20. When speaking about it, should I talk about my personal funds? So I don't remember, when you ask a question and then I come back to see another question from you, it's difficult for me to remember what question you asked earlier, and all of that. So it depends on the scholarship you have. If the scholarship is you can start with the scholarship and then you can talk about your brother and all of that. It also depends on how much personal funds you have. So the arrangement depends on how much each component is. Then the village boy says, Shaibu, may Allah continue to bless you for your continued support in this journey. Humbly, my program starts on 14th August 2024, and I had a date of 6th August. Can this have an influence? No, it should still be fine. In your case, I mean, you might want to when it comes to have you made travel plans, you can say yes, but in general, you don't have to say yes to have you made travel plans. They don't expect you to make any travel plans. But in your case, yeah, you can probably say when I was going for my interview, my program start date on the I-20, I think it was August 4th. And I went for my visa interview in 2016 on July 25th, which was very close. And so when I was going for the interview, my my senior man, who was the one behind a lot of things that I know, and the one who helped me with a lot of things, you know prepared me for a question like that, like, um so assuming you are asked if you've made any travel plans, or you're you are late for your program, what are you going to do about it, something like that. So you can always talk about the fact that you've made some travel plans, you've made inquiries about flights, and you've packed up your things and stuff like that, just waiting for your visa to be approved or something. And also, once your visa is approved, if for some reasons you delay, okay, so let's say you are not able to leave your country on time. So let's say your program start date is, let's say, August 10th, and then for some reasons you are leaving on August 15th, okay, which is 5 days after the program start date. You can actually write to the school for them to give you a late arrival letter. So they will put that information into your immigration information. So when you get to the port of entry, they will not even ask you why you are late or anything like that, because your school has already entered that information there. So it's called a late arrival letter. Okay. Um Kweku says, I previously applied with an Empower loan, but I'm now going with family funds and a slightly better scholarship. Is that a significant change? I think so. Once you have a slightly better scholarship and family funds, I think, yeah. But then again, it's not just the funds that have changed. You also have to make sure the answers that you already have are good enough. You can explain yourself very well. You are clear, you are natural, and all of so all those things put together can help you get your visa approved. The next question is, please, do you have any video on how to fill a DX1C form? Yes, for us, I have a video on that. Yesterday, I got a comment. The person says the video is good, but I made a video as if I was, filling it out myself and all of that, which I think I kind of understood what he meant. So yeah, but that video can actually guide you to prepare your to fill out your DX1C form. Kweku says it's a change in program and school, a significant change. It's actually not a good thing. Like if you change your program, it's not it's a red flag, because why will you change from sociology to, let's say, economics? What is your reason? It means that you are just desperate to come to the US and you are trying to do whatever it takes to come here. So be careful when you want to change your program. I have a video on a student that I coached. His visa was denied the first time and he was going again with a different school. And so in his case, we had to come up with something, and you can actually check my video on that. Okay. All right. Coyote says, please, sir, I have an interview soon. Can I tell the visa officer I'll be sponsoring my education myself if I didn't have anyone to sponsor me? Yeah, Coyote. So this is not going to be easy. My point with people self-funding themselves is, okay, let's say you are funding yourself and then you have enough money for your first year. What about your second year? What about for some reasons you run out of money at some point? How are you going to take care of that? So always, if you have somebody kind of supporting you with whatever you have, then it helps, because it's like, okay, you have somebody who will be responsible for anything that comes up and all of that. So that's my argument. Okay. Safia says, I have a funding of 10,000 and a deficit of 54,000. Is this a good one? And my mom is my sponsor. Yeah, I mean, the deficit is huge, but if it's your mom, then fine. It's all about if your mom can sponsor you, if she has the money, if she has enough, a good business to be able to sponsor you, then fine, you can go with that. Loretta Quay says, hello, Shai, got admission for fall with no scholarship from the school. Can I defer my admission to the next fall so I keep applying for GA, or it can only defer to the next available session? Yeah, so Loretta, you can actually defer to the next fall. Okay. The only challenge is that what is the guarantee that the school is going to give you a GA for the next fall? My thing will be to apply to a different school. Take your time, apply to the right school. Make sure the school has stated on their page that they give funding or scholarship, whatever it is. Make sure it's there. And make sure you submit a good application, a good personal statement, a good resume. All of these things will give you a better chance to get admission and funding. Also, if you want, you can also take the GRE or the SAT, depending on your level. Okay, because that also makes it easy for you to get a good yeah. So you're applying for a GA, so yeah, if you take the GRE, that can help. But if you don't take the GRE, you have to apply to the right school. It also depends on your GPA. Okay. Portia, how do I answer this if my husband has traveled before, and also if my husband has sponsored someone before? Well, you have to be truthful. That's what I can say. Samson says, I want to ask, do visa officers accept college? I'm not too sure what you mean. Like community college. Yeah, people get approved with community college. So yeah, yeah, it's all about, what you are coming to study. If you have a good reason to study it, if you have some scholarship and all these things put together. Okay, so the next question is, if one wants to have one-on-one interview practice with probably with me, what's the step to go through? Well, if you want me to coach you, I mean, I spent 7 years of my life in the US and I was coaching people for free, and it wasn't even like me coaching people for free. I was actually spending a lot of money on people. I was paying application fees. I was, picking people from airports. I was taking people out, making people comfortable, buying things for people and all of that, because it was nice to do it and all of that. But I realized that, that's not real life. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, early this year I made a decision that I'm not coaching students for free. I'll make videos that you can actually watch to prepare yourself and all of that, and to be approved, which many people have done. But my coaching thing is not simple. When I'm coaching students, it takes a lot of time. And actually, what I charge students $60. It used to be $50. I charge $60 because it's a lot of time. It's actually not worth my time, given how much time I put into it. Because even the first call, we are going to spend 1 hour for us to, know everything, and then for me to guide you to prepare your answers and all of that. And then there will be back and forth with your answers, and then there will be mock sessions for me to, like individual mock sessions, which all of these things, they take a lot of time. So if you look at my time, my experience, it's worth more than $200 actually. Yeah. But if you want to do coaching, you can, the links are always in the description of my video, so you can check them out and you can book it online. If you don't want to book it online, because online it comes with 7% fee. If you don't want to do that, you can also send me a message on WhatsApp, and then you can let somebody in the US, we can have that arrangement as well to send me the money to avoid the fees. So that is also an option. Sam Kweku says is 26,000 a huge deficit. I cannot say it's a huge deficit because I have to know the cost of attendance before I can tell you if it's huge or not, and also know how much scholarship you have. All of these things. It's not just one thing. You don't make a decision based on one component. You make a decision based on everything together. Okay. Gloria says, Shai, please, my father is Dr. So and so and a businessman, but he does not use the doctor in his business account, and I'm using his business bank account for the interview. Is this an issue? Well, no. If he has enough, you know, if he has enough savings in his bank account and you are presenting that and it's your dad, you guys have the same surname, I think it's still fine. It's 100% fine actually. Okay. Rabna says hi Rabna. Kinza says, hi, dropped a question yesterday regarding my financial situation. If you can repeat it here, I will look at it for you, okay? Rabna says, my sponsor is my mom's twins. My mom's twin, she has no biological kids. Are there chances to be approved? Always there are chances to be approved, okay? But some some conditions make it more likely to be approved. Some conditions make it less likely to be approved, okay? So anybody can be approved, but yeah, this one, if it's your mom's twin, it's difficult to justify because the visa officers, they don't want to be hearing stepmom, stepdad, uncle. Like, no, it doesn't really help unless you have a good scholarship. Then that can actually override all those things. So yeah. um Proof for travel plans. Like I said, the visa officers, they don't expect you to have any travel plans. So if you ask about travel plans, you can just say, they won't ask you, but if you are not expected to make any travel plans. If you are coming here to do for a B1 visa or something, then they can ask you because you're coming for a business. So businessman, probably you have some plans made, but F1 students, you're not supposed to make any travel plans. Some of the embassies will even tell you not to book your flights. There was this thing from an embassy which says that don't book your flight until you have received your passport. That's how it is. So you're not supposed to make any travel plans. I don't know. I know there are people who are saying you have to make travel plans, but I mean, I've coached so many students. I've never had any student who was asked about travel plans. So yeah, I don't know if they even ask a question like that, but they don't have to because you're not so. I don't have my visa, so why should I make travel plans? Making travel plans even makes you look desperate. It's like you're so desperate to come here. So yeah. NS says, Shy, I have a typo in my previous comment. My scholarship is 5,000 and my deficit is 31,000. My cost of attendance is 36,000. I'm going for a bachelor's degree. Yeah, the scholarship is small, but in this case, what I would say is it depends on who is sponsoring you. Who is sponsoring you in this case can make a big difference. If it's your parents, then that can help. If not, then it will be a bit tricky. So yeah, that's what I would say. Safia says, I'm working, but personal funds is not included on the I-20. Will I include it on my question of sponsorship? Yes. If it's not captured on the I-20, you can always bring it up in the interview. The visa officer is going to give you the visa based on what you say at the interview. And if the visa officer is not convinced about what you are saying, then they can ask for a document. Then you need to have documents to show for that. Okay, so it's always based on what you say there. The next question is from Nanayao. So the cost of attendance is actually 13K and the scholarship is just 10%, leaving the deficit to be 12K. My brother's statement is 213K. that's why I'm using if that's why I'm using it if I should talk about my personal funds. Here again, you don't mention your personal funds, so I don't even know what your personal funds is. But yeah, you can. The scholarship is still small, but your deficit is 12K, which is very low. It's not really that high, and so with that amount, I think it all depends on how you explain yourself. Okay, you can be approved honestly. Um, Stephanie says, please, my family is sponsoring my education. So is it possible for the officer to ask me what my family do to earn that fund? So if you say your family, I don't know who in the family is sponsoring you, because that is the if an uncle is sponsoring you, it gives you less chance compared to if your father is sponsoring you. So that is something you should take note of. Uh, Athlete Evolution says, I have a graduate assistantship, which is 10 hours, which waives my out of state tuition and provides me with a stipend of 5,700 per year and health insurance worth 3,000. This leaves me with a deficit of 25,000. Yeah, with what you are describing, it looks like you have a huge scholarship, which means that the cost of attendance is actually very high. So yeah, you once you have a GA, it always helps. I think you should have a good chance to get approved. It also depends on who is taking care of the deficit, but I think you have a good chance. Uh, my program is sports related, and my sports organization is listed as my sponsor for the deficit on the I-20. Can you help me understand how to defend this during my interview? Yeah, this one I cannot give you a general answer, but I cannot give you a specific answer. But what I can say is, you have to be able to express yourself very well in terms of why you want to study, a sports program and all of that, and why the sports organization is sponsoring you. I think if an organization is sponsoring you, it always gives you a better chance. So I think you should be fine. You have a good scholarship, and an organization is sponsoring you. Once you can explain what you do for the organization and why they want to sponsor you, then you should be fine. So I have a video on a company sponsoring one of the people I coach, and it was approved. So you can look at some of the things that he said and pick up, a few things. Limbo says, I got admission for spring 2025. I got no scholarship, and my deficit is 22,000, and my uncle is my sponsor. Yeah, once the uncle comes up, it's a problem. It's not easy. If you don't have any scholarship and you're being sponsored by your uncle, it's not easy. Yeah, for that one, I'll tell you that it's not going to be easy, but you can still be approved. Okay. Um, Sarah says deficit is cost of attendance minus your scholarship amount on the I-20. Yes, your deficit is, yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. The village boy says my cost of attendance is little over 36,000 and I had a funding of 8,000 with a deficit of 26,000. What are my chances of being approved? Yeah, like I said, it depends on who is sponsoring you, who is taking care of the deficit. Okay, that plays a crucial role here. Network TV says, can I make use of my account because my sponsor has no much money in his account? What do you mean by can you use your account? I mean, if you have enough funds, you can go with that and try to you might be asked, how do you get the money? So you have to be able to explain why you got the money and all of that. Dominic says, Shai, please, I have a scholarship for 8,000 and an Empower loan of 48,000, and my cost of my total cost is 56,000. Am I good to go? Well, you can be approved. Modin has a scholarship of 10,000. Okay, and he had a huge deficit. I think the deficit was 42. The deficit was $42,000. So it's similar to yours, and yeah, you can watch his video to learn how he got his visa approved. I try to provide students with information, but at the same time, I don't encourage students going for a loan. Okay. Precious says, hi, joining for the first time. Please, do you have any advice for those that have been previously denied a visa? I actually have a video on that, but what I can say is that you have to know what has changed. There should be a significant change. It could be funding, it could be your job or something, but there should be a change. That is the only way to be approved. And also, you also have to make sure the previous answer that you have, make sure you go through them to make sure they are much better than before. That is very crucial. And also, try to practice your answers. Like the more you practice it, the more you become natural when you are explaining yourself. Okay. um Equus Oasis Educational Center says, all individuals going for their visa interviews on Monday, all the best. Yeah, thank you for wishing the best, for wishing them the best. Uh, then Safia says, also I mentioned that I have no relative in the US, but I also have an address of where I will stay. Is that an issue? So the address that you have of where you will stay, whose address is it? Is it the address of the school official? Because always there should be an address, and you can go with the school official address. So that is a good option. If you have made if you have made accommodation arrangements, then that is also fine. You can put that there. Sarah Boachi says, I know on Tuesday I will be approved because of God and your video assistance, but I will surely reach out to you after hearing this good news and send you my interview transcript. All right, Sarah, I wish you the best. Just believe in yourself, and yeah, the school has given you admission, so the school believes in you, so you have to believe in yourself as well. Frederick says, I changed my program to a related one after my previous denial. The new program better suit my career goals. Is it a red flag? Well, if you have changed it to a program that is similar and you can explain yourself very well, then I think it should be okay. It's not really, that bad. Stephanie says, please, my deficit is 34,823. Is it good? So Stephanie, it's difficult to tell you whether it's good or not because I, like I said, I don't remember what you said before. So normally, if you put everything together, or if you send one and then you send the other one to follow up, then I can easily match the two and see what you mean. So it's difficult to tell if that deficit is small or not because it always depends on the cost of attendance, the scholarship and all of that. Samson says my father is a clergyman. He makes huge amounts of money, and he's the one sponsor my school, and also he's the one who has been sponsoring your education, I guess. And also he has 31 branches of churches. Can I be approved with this? Yeah, I mean, if he makes enough money and you can show for that, once he's your father, I think that helps a lot. So yeah, you can, you can prepare yourself very well and go for it. Limbo says my father is my sponsor, but our surname is not the same. Bro, what are the odds? If your father is your sponsor, when you go for the interview, you have to present your father as your sponsor. If you sound well, the visa officer might not even look at your documents. Once they believe that it's your father, then they'll be like, okay, fine. But if the visa, for some reason, if the visa officer requests for your documents and then they realize that the name, the surnames are not the same, then you'll be denied because most of the time you have to have your father's name as your surname most of the time. That is more like the conventional thing. So if it's not, then it kind of raises a red flag. So that is what I can say. Portia says my cost of attendance is 18K and my deficit is 40K. Huh? Is it also good? Portia, I think you've probably made a mistake here. The cost of attendance is always bigger than the deficit. So I think you should check that. If you meant your deficit is 18K and your cost of attendance is 40K, then I think you are good to go because it means you have a good scholarship. Okay. Sam says my deficit is 34K, my scholarship is 8K, my deficit is 26K. Is the deficit too high? So here again, it's not just the deficit. You have to also make sure you are looking at who is sponsoring you, who is taking care of the deficit. That is what makes the difference. Okay. So it depends on who is taking care of the deficit. Kofi says, please, is summer admission good for international students in terms of assistantship? No, I will not tell anybody to apply, for the summer semester. It's not a good idea. My recommendation always will be apply to the fall semester. That's what I always tell students. NS says, Shai, I intend to work in a different company and not where I'm currently working because if I say I'll return to my current company for a higher position after 4 years of bachelor's degree in the US. Ernest, I still don't remember what you said earlier, honestly. I'm sorry. Yeah. Mohit says, sir, I'm waiting for the refusal slots for 2024 intake. When will it open? I have no idea about these things. Okay. I only coach students
for their interviews, and also help students with study abroad stuff, not these stuff, interview dates and stuff like that, all these things. Nah. Limbo says my father is my sponsor, but our surname is not the same. What are the odds? Yeah, it won't be easy if you don't share the same surname. But also, unless you are not asked for the statement, and most of the time they don't even ask for the statement if you sound convincing to them. And like I said, if you want somebody to believe you, you have to mirror the person. And so if the person is keeping an eye contact, keep an eye contact. If the person is raising the hand, raise a hand. Once you mirror the person, you establish trust between you and the person. And that's how it works with the visa officers as well. Um okay, which Stephanie says my cost of attendance is 47,000, my scholarship is 12,000, leaving a deficit of 34,000. My brother is sponsoring my education with an amount of 97,000. Please, is it good? Yes, it's good if you share the same surname with a brother. So your brother has to have, obviously your brother has enough money. But the other thing is that is he really your brother? If you can explain that and show to the resource that he's actually your brother, I think you'll be approved. Sarah says 69,000 with a scholarship of 25,000 with a deficit of 44,000. I think if you explain yourself very well, I think you can be approved because your scholarship is not really that bad. It's about maybe 35%, which is not bad. I think you can be approved. Okay. Sam says my deficit will be covered by both my dad and my uncle. I'm the guy with the 26,000 deficit. Yeah, I think, yeah, once your dad is in the picture, it always helps. Okay, so yeah, I think just go for it, prepare yourself very well, and yeah, you can be approved. Adeshina says my cost of attendance is $43,000. My tuition is 22, and I received a 9K graduate coordinator fund, and my deficit will now be 34. What are my chances? My dad is my sponsor. Once you have some scholarship and your dad is sponsoring you, I think if you prepare yourself very well, you have a good chance. Okay, so that's what I can tell you. Apia Kubi says, please may I know the telecommunication program you read? Yeah. So it is at Ohio University, and the name of the program is Information and Telecommunication Systems. Okay, that's the name of the program at Ohio University. So that's the program. It's actually a good program. Adeshina says, I want to have a one-on-one coaching with you. Yeah, so one-on-one coaching, because of the time involved in it and because I do it one-on-one, and all of that, it's not easy. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. And because I feel like if you bring me your answer to go through for you, there is a good chance your answers are not good. So how do I respond to that? How do I tell you, change this, change that? It's difficult. But when I coach you, I actually tell you how to prepare your answers, what you should put in your answers. So that one, you are likely to present something that makes a lot of sense, that actually is good enough. And so I don't have to worry too much about it. That's why I do one-on-one. Okay. And if you want to know how to, how if you want me to coach you, you should find links in the description of this video and any of my videos as well. Okay. The next question is Selena says, please do you also coach for admissions? Yeah, so I have helped so many students in the past. I actually started coaching students, like help students get admission and funding in 2016, just after I came to the US, and I've helped so many students who are already here, so many. But I have never charged anybody to coach them for admissions, which because of the decision that I made this year. So if I'm coaching somebody, I'm going to charge the person. If I have a link that you can check, so that link, I am charging students. If you want me to go through your personal statements, your resume, like all your application materials, and also suggest the right schools for you to apply, depend on the program you want to offer, for you to get admission and good funding and all of that, then I'm going to charge you. So you have to check the link in the description of this video. Portia says, actually, my cost of attendance is 18K and my deficit is 40K. I didn't get any scholarship. Portia, your question, if you don't have any scholarship, your cost of attendance will be equal to your deficit, unless I'm confused about something, but that's what I'm thinking. Samuel says, please, my uncle is sponsoring me, going for a diploma in welding and fabrication. Can I be approved? Well, you don't provide enough information because I need to know something about your funding, because funding is extremely important, especially depending on where you are coming from. If you're coming from Africa, funding is extremely important. The visa officers pay a lot of attention to your funding. Okay, so I need to know all of that before I can actually give an opinion. And even if you give me all of that, it's still not straightforward like that, because a lot of things have to come to play. Okay, excuse me. Um, Coyote says, I'm going for an interview soon and it's just 1 year program, master's degree. Can I tell the visa officer I'll be sponsoring my education myself? Yeah, if it's 1 year program, I think you can actually do that if you have enough savings. If it's just 1 year, yeah, I think it's can. But I always recommend that you should have another sponsor. But yeah, if it's a 1 year program, I think you can still be fine. Mohi says, please, says, sir, my sponsor is in the US. It's a US resident. So is this the reason for denial or not? Well, I have a recent video of someone who had two sponsors. One of them is in the US, okay, a professor in the US. So it depends on who the person is. It depends on what how the person got here and all of that. So whether it's a red flag or not depends on the person. The next person is Matthias. He says, please, I got denied yesterday because I said I don't know about a petition filed on my behalf 13 years ago. What should I say? Because my elder brother in Ghana was keeping it and passed on 2 year ago. I'm not really an expert in stuff like that, so that one I cannot really give an answer to that. But that's something you can actually Google, or you can consult an expert in this type of stuff. Adeshina says, won't you have discount for for your subscribers? So like I said, what I actually charge is a big discount, because coaching students takes a lot of time. It's You have no idea. Like, it's not easy for me. Like, it's this thing, it's a lot of work. Like it's not easy. So if I should charge about $500, given how much time I put into it and the kind of help I offer and all of that. But yeah, $60 is very low. I just I get requests from like so many students, like so many hundreds of students, and if I say I'm even going to do it for free, it will not even be possible. So I have to charge something because I put in a lot of effort. um who else? Emmanuel says, I got admission, I sent my financial document to the school so that I get an I-20. It's now 2 weeks. Should I send a follow-up email or just wait for them to respond? You can send an email to your department if the email you sent earlier was to the school. Okay, so you can send an email to the department and see. And yeah, you can send a follow up email. Okay. Something says, is it corresponding? You must know your location of school. Yes or no? Yeah, so if you are going to a particular school, you have to know where the school is located, just the city and the state. Okay. You don't really have to know other details about the school. I've heard people talk about mascots and all of that. I've never heard anybody being asked about the mascot of a school. That's not important. I don't really see the point. Why do you I've never seen anybody who has been asked that before. When I was going for my visa interview in 2016, I prepared some documents and I had all of these things there, like all sort of things about the school. But it's not really that important. That is not a basis for the visa officer to approve or deny your visa. No, why? Why do I have to know the mascot of a school? But if you want to know, that's fine. But I have no. If I see anyone who has been asked before, then I can say, okay, it's possible. But I've never seen anything like that. Okay. Even if you are asked, it's probably more like a chat or something. There. It shouldn't have any impact on your approval or denial. Okay. Okay. Dominic says, "Hi, I paid $2,000 as enrollment deposit, but it doesn't show my I-20. The enrollment deposit will not show on your I-20. It's something that you are paying to the school for them to reserve your spot for you. So it wouldn't show on the I-20. I don't think it will show on the I-20. So that's how it is. I like to avoid schools that require an enrollment fee, because the enrollment fee is a lot of money and it's a risk. If your visa is not approved, it's like you've wasted $2,000. Man, that's a lot of money. So yeah, I like to stay away from all those enrollment fee stuff. You can always verify all this information before you apply to a school. Okay. And that's why you always have to do your research. When somebody makes a video and suggests a school to you, you know, maybe I mean, I see a lot of videos that say for scholarship schools. Forget all those people. If it's not, if you want a full scholarship to do a bachelor's degree, you have to have a good, like a solid SAT score. If it's not a solid SAT score, forget about it. The video is just lying to you. That's the truth. But if you're coming to do your masters, then masters, because of the fact that we do graduate assistantship, and so you teach and all of that, so that one you can get 100% scholarship, and that one, yeah, so yeah, if the video is talking about masters and PhD, 100% scholarship. And even that one is even that is it's not even a credible video, because almost every school will give you 100% scholarship. Almost every school, like almost every school has a program, a master's program that will give you 100% scholarship. So a video saying 100% scholarship doesn't even, but it's just the world we live in. That is what the kind of videos that people will like, 100% scholarship. But no, that's not every school. Every school gives 100% scholarship for some programs. So you know, so yeah, um, that's how it is. You just have to make sure you do your research on the school to make sure the school doesn't require an enrollment deposit. Okay, and you can always find out that information before you submit an application. And it's just similar to the GRE, the SAT, and all of that. You have to make sure the school doesn't require it. If you have WASI, make sure the school is okay with your WASI before you apply. And because if the school requires something and then you apply without that something, then you're not going to get admission and funding. So that's something to pay attention to. NS says, can a company wait for you to return to work there after going to do a 4 years bachelor's degree? Won't there be an issue? If you're coming to do your bachelor's degree and a company is sponsoring you, I'll probably say it's not a good idea, because I don't see why a company will spend 4 years money on you for you to come to the US to do your bachelor's degree, and then you go back. Because if you are coming here to do your bachelor's degree, you don't have enough skills for the company to even want to sponsor you. Normally, a company is sponsoring those who are coming to do a master's degree. That's what I think. That's what I think makes a lot of sense. So you have to actually think about it very well. Does it actually make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense to you, then the visa officer will also not find it, sensible. So that's what I want to tell you. Vivian says, please, do they accept college? I'm not too sure what you mean. Kofi says, please, if you get admission to a low rank public university with low tuition, will it be a red flag? I don't think so. I think it's all about the conditions, the scholarship, and all those things. So I'm already tired, actually. Well, the next person is Mohit. My maternal uncle is sponsoring for F1 visa, and he's a resident of the US. My first interview was denied going for bachelor's degree. So is this the reason for the denial or not? It's possible you were denied because the person is an uncle. All these uncles, sometimes it's difficult when you are presenting an uncle. So probably it will be in your best interest to try to get some scholarship. Okay. Benjamin says, my cost of attendance is 34, my GA is 26, so my deficit is 8K. I'm going with a bank statement from my stepmother, but I will say my mother instead of my stepmother. What do you think? I mean, the fact that you have this huge scholarship with this small deficit means, I mean, you are fine. Don't worry about it. Whatever you do, you should still be fine. Zone says, someone else is sponsoring me, but I feel my father is sponsoring me in the DX1C. Is it good? Well, that is a decision you have made. The visa says sometimes you can tell that you are lying, and so that is something that you have decided for yourself. Adeshina says, please, is the chance of getting a visa approved with master's degree in a college a barrier? Well, it's all about the conditions, it's all about the funding, and the visa officers, they don't know. There are more than 5,000 universities and colleges in the US. The visa officers, they don't even know if the school is a low rank school or not. They don't know all of these things. So it's all about what the school has given you and how you express your answers and all of these things. So yeah, that's what I think. The only thing is that if you are going to a low rank school or a college, and it's likely that school is not going to give you a good funding, because those schools don't have enough money to give out as funding. So that's the thing. The next thing is what I meant is applying to a college for masters. Yeah, same thing. Gopal says, I was rejected for my M1 pilot training twice. Now I'm applying for aerospace engineering. What suggestion do you want to give? Yeah, I guess they are different. So you just have to prepare yourself for the F1 visa interview because it's different. It shouldn't affect you. Okay. Scripture says I was denied in 2010 for F1 for bachelor's. Now I have bachelor's degree in geography and MPhil. Now I'm going for MS geography. Can I use the changes in my academics to answer what has changed? Well, I mean, 2010 is such a long time, and I don't think that will come up. Okay, I don't think so. Limbo says my father is my sponsor. I have a deficit of 22,000. He's into car parts dealing and has an annual income of 145,000. Is that a good to be approved? Are you sure somebody who is into car parts is able to make $145,000? Because this is a lot of money, and the job and the money, I don't think they match. So that's something you have to decide. If you know you are being truthful, then fine. Stephanie says general studies is on my I-20 because my first years are admitted without declaring any major. So in this case, the VO asked the course I'm going to study. So in this case, if the VO asks the course I'm going to study, should I say the intended course or the general studies? I think you should go with the intended course, and if you are asked, you can just say it's the same thing because that is the CIP code on the I-20. The visitors, they actually know all of this. Sometimes they are just trying to, you know, find out if you actually know the difference. So you shouldn't worry about that. Michelle Boatin says Michelle Boatin is somebody I know. Michelle Boatin says, please, with a cost of attendance of 21K with no funding, is it a good thing for approval? It's not about the cost of attendance. I always say that if you have a scholarship, it shows that you have financial support and you're also a good student. Normally, scholarships are reserved for best students. And so having a scholarship is always a good thing. It shows you are a good student. And so that gives you, if you have 21K with no funding, then it has to be about who is sponsoring you. If it's your father, you have a good chance. I don't know if I should say a good chance. You have, you can't be approved. If it's not your father, it's going to be very difficult. Stephanie says my brother is sponsoring me, but we don't have the same surname. Can you help me with an example of how to defend myself? Well, I don't really have an example because if it's your brother and he's not sharing the same surname with you, then you have to explain how come you don't share the same surname if you are asked about that. But ideally, a brother and a sister have to share the same surname. Okay, or otherwise you can also try to get some funding, next time or something. So Rachel says, what do you think about having a deficit of 36,000? So Rachel, it's not about the deficit. It depends on the scholarship you have and the cost of attendance as well. All of this put together will give a better picture of, whether you are likely or more likely or less likely to be approved. Okay. Gopal says my M1 visa was rejected twice. Will that affect my F1 visa? Yeah. So like I said, it shouldn't affect your F1 visa because there are two different categories of visa. Okay, so just have to prepare yourself for the F1 visa. Okay. Dominic says, what are your chances of using Empower Financing and a scholarship? If you apply for if you're using Empower Financing and then you have a scholarship, you have a good chance. Empower without scholarship is difficult. So if you have some scholarship, it kind of helps you. And I have a video on that, so you can check that one out. Selena says, is it good to apply to programs that doesn't require letters of recommendation? Letters of recommendation. I mean, I think most programs require that, and there's nothing wrong with letters of recommendations. I think you should apply to schools that require it. Okay, because the recommendation letter is supposed to let your recommender provide some information about your academic and your personal achievements and growth and stuff like that. So it's actually a good thing. Okay. Jesse says, can you transfer to a community college after you've been approved for a 4-year college? So if you will that affect you before you can you do that before you enter the US? No. So just my recommendation is, if you use one school to apply for a visa and you are approved, and then you don't want to attend that school, what you should do is, as soon as you get to the US, switch to the other school. That's what I recommend. I don't know if at the port of entry if that can be an issue. I'm not an expert in that. But what I know is that, or what I know people have done, or what I recommend to students is, if a school, if you use a school's I-20 to get approved, as soon as you get to the US and you go through, the port of entry, and you can, like, once you go through, the port of entry and you are fine and all of that, you should contact the you should contact a university for them to transfer your service records to B university. So you can even decide to go to B university straight away, because that's what you prefer. Don't even bother yourself going to A university, just go straight to B university. And then once you get to B university, tell A university to transfer your service records to B university. It is very simple. It doesn't even take time. Okay, it's a straightforward process. So I think I've answered all the questions. And Michelle Boatin says, can you edit an already submitted DX1C form? Once you submit your DX1C form, you cannot edit it. What you can do is to create a new one and then update that information on the appointment page. So you can do that one. Okay. And if you have changed schools, then you have to request for a transfer of service fee payment to the other school. Okay. Something says, please can you go with a different school and a different program if you have been denied 2 times? Well, if you have been denied 2 times, there is a good chance that you are doing something wrong. So you have to find out what you are doing wrong and work on that first. It's possible you can still go with the old school, or unless the new school gave you funding. But if it's a different program, you have to find a way to justify it. Honestly, it's not that easy. And like I said, I have a video on that already, and that was a story of Hamza. He reached out to me. He was denied the first one, and so he came to me, and we needed to change the program. I think the program had changed, the school had changed or something, and he was being sponsored by his brother. So we had to, find out something, and so we were able to justify it. So you can check out that video. Um, Benjamin says, I'm not having the same surname with my stepmom. So me saying she's my mom instead will raise further questions. Well, that is something you can try to go around. You can say she's your adopted mom. She has adopted you or something. I mean, this is not something which is straightforward that I can. This is something I think you can think about it, and then just say something that makes sense. Okay. Uh, Peter says, how is the interview if one is attending with a community college? Well, I think community college, one thing is that they don't really give good funding and all of that. So sometimes without a good scholarship already, it becomes difficult for you. But if you're going with a community college, they've given you some funding, and you yourself, you are able to express yourself so well to the visa officer, you'll be approved. Okay. Kofi says, please, is cost of attendance um 16,000 with no funding good for F1s for an F1 visa? Well, the cost of attendance is very low, but then also without scholarship, it doesn't always help. So I always encourage students to get a scholarship. In your case, what can actually help you is who is sponsoring you. Okay, who is taking care of that deficit? I keep telling students, it's not about low cost of attendance or high cost of attendance, but who is sponsoring you. If it's your dad and you share the same surname and all of that, then that is a good thing. But if it's not your dad, it won't be easy. Okay. Limbo says it shows on my I-20 computer and information sciences general. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with going with the one on the I-20, or the one that is the name of the program. Uh, Schools in the US have a standard, and so they try to categorize programs based on similarity. So if a school is offering economics and then another school is offering applied economics, they can put the two together and call it quantitative economics and something. So it's like they give them one code so that all those programs which are which have some economics in them are put together, and that is the CIP code. So there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to say that the one on the I-20 is the CIP code of the program. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Oluwaseun says, I don't have a job, but I got admission with $25,000, leaving me with a deficit of 31,000 deficit. You got admission with I don't know if you meant $25,000 scholarship. Probably that's what you meant. Okay, you said scholarship. Okay, what are the chances of getting a visa? Yeah, once you have a scholarship big like that, it helps a lot. This scholarship is about maybe 45% or so, or maybe 40%, which is actually good. Now you have to present a good sponsor, and it also depends if you're coming to your bachelor's degree, then you can probably put some internship work or something, volunteer work or something, that just to help yourself. But yeah, if you're not working, it's always not a good idea. If you just completed your bachelor's degree, then that's fine. Normally, bachelor's degrees, you're not expected to be working because you don't have enough. Sorry, if you just completed high school, you probably don't have enough, skills to be able to do anything, significant. So you can be pardoned for that. But if you're coming to do masters and you are done with your bachelor's degree and you are not working, that is actually not a good thing, because it's like, it's like you don't have a job in your country, so you're desperate to leave the country so that you can get some, you can you can escape to a better opportunities or something. So yeah, so guys, yeah, Michelle, you're welcome. So guys, thank you so much for joining my first live, and yeah, hopefully we can do this more often. And yeah, thanks for your questions, and thank you for staying with me throughout. Yeah, it's been really nice, and yeah, I appreciate all of you. And yeah, see you again. Bye bye.